Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome back to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew. Now, over the weekend, I received a text message from our next guest stating that filmmaker William Lewis had passed away. And if you don't know him, you should. He's made over 12 documentaries, worked on a few others, got his career started working on music album covers for people. But we posted the article, Patriot filmmaker William Lewis passes away. He was best known for his groundbreaking documentaries, including 9/11 in Plain Sight, Washington, You're Fired, and Life on the Edge of a Bubble. We have a lot of articles and interviews that he actually came here in studio via Skype. If you want to check those out and learn about William Lewis, if you don't already know about him. Now, I'm just going to go through his discography really quick, his filmography. Starting in 2004, he released 9/11 in Plain Sight. 2005 was Beyond Treason. 2006, One Nation Under Siege. 2007, 9/11 Ripple Effect. And then his next three documentaries I think are his most powerful. 2008, Washington, You're Fired. 2009, Life on the Edge of a Bubble, a documentary that's still very pertinent today. And then 2009, he worked on Camp FEMA with our next guest, Gary Franchi. Finishing up here, Enemy of the State, Camp FEMA Part 2, Don't Tread on Me, Blood of Patriots, Ron Paul Uprising, and Peddling Influence. Now joining us via Skype is Gary Franchi, who collaborated on 3 projects with William Lewis, Camp FEMA Part 2, which is Enemy of the State, and Don't Tread on Me. He's with nextnewsnetwork.com. Gary, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, Rob. Thanks for having me despite the news.
Yeah, it is bad news, especially when one of our own comes to passes through the great wide open, however you want to say it. William Lewis is hopefully definitely in a better place at this point. I know he had some health issues recently in the last few years, but describe how you guys got together and your process of making the Camp FEMA documentary series.
Well, I was impacted mostly by his film 9/11 in Plain Sight, One Nation Under Siege, Washington, You're Fired. So when I came up with the concept for Camp FEMA, it was natural for me to start seeking out other filmmakers who I could collaborate with, and that's how I found William with Pseudos Films. And we decided that we needed to make a film that would take a look at the contingency programs, the continuity of government programs in the United States, and put to rest some of the myths and raise light on realities of the FEMA camps in America.
Yeah, that's a big thing. People say, well, there's no FEMA camps. It's all written in documentation. And we've even uncovered documents since you guys made your films on how they're going to use Social Security numbers to categorize people, how they're going to have PSYOP officers at these camps. I mean, it's getting a lot serious now than it was back then. But even back then, you guys were showing how the Japanese intern camp worked. And I think you even interviewed a survivor from back then, back in the 40s when they were interned by the U.S. government.
Yeah, we did. That was one of the linchpins of the entire film because we wanted to show people an American citizen. That was the whole point. The gentleman we interviewed was an American citizen who was interred in a camp that was upheld by the Supreme Court. So we had to lay down that foundation and then do a cross-reference to who the government sees as the enemies today. And of course, we looked at the MIAC report. We looked at a bunch of different, the Southern Poverty Law Center, how all these different groups are targeting Americans simply because, we support the Constitution.
Right. And I was talking earlier about, they just removed a Jefferson Davis and Woodrow Wilson statue from UT. And, people think like the Civil War started overnight. No, these things are all drawn out. They're long plans that have to go into effect. I mean, it started years ago when the North started tariffing the South to go in and just raise the prices on their goods. So Southerners would have to pay more, thereby getting all that money that the South was getting from all the crops they were growing. But, going back in with William Lewis, I mean, what do you think is his most impactful documentary?
I think 9/11 in Plain Sight. That was the first film that, my father presented it to me, and I was like, wow, my dad's talking about this. That's a game changer right there. And that film changed a lot of people's lives, opened a lot of people's eyes to the facts and the fraud of 9/11. So I think in the entire body of work, 9/11 in Plain Sight is going to change people's minds about that day. And then, of course, all his other films, like it's a progression. I mean, the whole catalog is so intense and so powerful that even in William's death, that he's going to have an impact for a very, very long time. Washington, You're Fired, amazing film. One Nation Under Siege. When I saw that movie, I was so captivated by his work. And I mean, the fact that I got to work with the guy on 3 films covering such amazing topics: FEMA camps, continuity of government, 10th Amendment, solutions to all these problems. I mean, Don't Tread on Me. That's what it was all about, was the solutions to the problems. So being able to work with William was an honor, an absolute honor.
And you even told me that you guys were even talking about getting together and doing a Camp FEMA Part 3.
Yeah. I scripted the outline for that film. We started getting the artwork put together, and see, William was having health issues for several years. He actually almost died on 2 different occasions. And here's the weird thing. Now, I spoke to his wife, and when we were filming Don't Tread on Me, William always traveled. He always traveled with a companion, somebody who could watch his back and make sure everything was going okay. The film topics he covered were always very controversial. Now, when I spoke to his wife, I said, Debbie, in the event that people come to me and say, hey, well, was William murdered? How do you want me to address that? Because, of course, that's where a lot of people's minds go. And I know the topic's going to come up. And she said, well, Gary, you should probably know something. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? When we were filming Don't Tread on Me, his hotel room was broken into. In the entire time that William was always making films, he always traveled with a companion. Now, when he was filming Don't Tread on Me, he went down to Oklahoma to interview Charles Key. That was the only time that he traveled alone. His hotel room was broken into. Everything was stolen except his camera, his wallet, his laptop, everything. Now, he ended up staying in that hotel room that night. Strangely enough, the security cameras at the hotel room were not working. So immediately after that is when his health started to decline. I don't want to just...
What year? I'm sorry to jump in, but what year was this about?
I can't remember the date that we were filming that movie, but it was years ago. But his health immediately started to decline after he made that film. And his pancreas started shutting down. He started having severe health issues, and he almost died on 2 other occasions. So I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and say he was murdered, but when I spoke to his wife, that was what she raised to me, the strange coincidence of his health being in decline immediately after that film. I mean, the guy was 47 years old.
Yeah, no, he's not that old, compared to lifespan. And he looked like he was in good health. He wasn't overweight. The times he came on the Alex Jones show, he looked in great health.
Yeah. And,
that's funny you should say that, because one of the first people, when I put out the tweet about your text message that you sent me that William Lewis had passed, one of the first people to get on and reply to that, said, was it natural causes? ? And that's where I think a lot of people are going to jump, because when you touch on this type of information that the government really doesn't want out there, they do not like the fact that people are out here talking about contingency plans to round up American citizens and put them in camps. But like you said, if you guys are going to work on a Camp FEMA Part 3, I think a cornerstone of that is, Hillary Clinton coming out and saying, I think we need fun camps for adults run by you people. She's talking to a group of people who work for Homeland Security. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
that should scare you.
Look at what Chris Christie's saying now. He wants to track all of the illegal aliens that come into this country, and he wants to put RFID. Who knows how he wants to do it? But he's talking about and that's the incremental step that's required.
Right, exactly. First is for illegal aliens, then it's for criminals in prison. Well, and then it's going to be for juveniles, and then then the elderly. Oh, and then everybody. So pretty soon everybody's being tracked by the government with RFID tracking chips, and that's the ultimate goal. That's what they want. They want to control how you spend your money and who you spend it with, and then they want to control your movement and which ways you could go. That's why they want to have driverless cars. So that's all ways, you could make the United States a case that it will soon be a giant FEMA camp with the driverless cars and the cashless society and the RFID tracking that they want to implement.
That's absolutely true. I mean, prison planet, that's exactly what we're moving towards. And in the United States, it's terrifying to consider that prospect in the land of the free, but it's programs like yours that are making a difference, and the life and work of William Lewis that made a difference and is going to continue to make a difference.
Totally agree, and that's why we have to continue doing what we're doing out there. We're going to go to break, but check out nextnewsnetwork.com. If you're up in the Chicago area, we're down here in Austin, Texas. Everybody's got to do their part to jump in. I encourage you to go check out some of William Lewis's documentaries, and we're going to be right back.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the Infowar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force,